especially in Ohio. Has anyone been held accountable? Franklin County Board of Election Deputy Director, Democrat Michael Hackett, was convicted on charges of profiting from a voting machine contract. Hackett's punishment was a year of probation, $3,250 in fines, and 45 hours of community service. His superior, Matt Damschroeder, was also convicted of illegal actions. His penalty, he was censured and suspended from work for a month. In Cuyahoga County, Ohio, 2 election workers were convicted for pre-selecting ballots to avoid discrepancies when the votes were retallied. Before the end of the year in 2007, 56 of Ohio's 88 counties reported that they had destroyed most of their ballots and other records from the 2004 presidential election. This action was taken despite Ohio election law and in violation of a federal court order to retain them. Without those ballot records, the accuracy of the Ohio vote reported on election night 2004 will never be known. Even though various investigations have been carried out, there have been few convictions.
If you look at the behavioral pattern of embezzlers, when they have a successful scam or a successful hack, they don't go whole hog at first. They tend to be very, very careful to make sure they're not caught. And the longer that they go without being detected, the more that they try and the more that they get away with.
People can't conceive of a party or a sitting government stealing an election. You know, this is not something their government would do. And, you know, some corrupt local government might steal a local election, but nationally, to see a government organized to steal an election is beyond comprehension. But you see, it is not beyond the comprehension for an ideologically motivated government. And if you're an ideological government, the only thing important is your ends. Your ends justify any means. Indeed, your ends require you to steal the election if you need to steal the election to stay in power to achieve your ends.
Citizens are now working to pass legislation to strengthen the audit process for those machines. At the same time, some grassroots activists are laying the groundwork for hand counting the paper ballots.
So when I was overwhelmed because I was thinking I would have to do it by myself. But when you unite across the state, you can get a lot accomplished. How we got this done in New Mexico needs to happen all over the country. And once we get that in place, we will finally get our vote count back in the hands of the people.
There's so many reasons. The reasons because there are people out there who are giving their lives to try to make our elections secure, and they're being called conspiracy theorists and technophobes, and these vendors are lying and saying that everything's all right, and it's not all right.
It was a phrase that was used in the 70s about appropriate technology and inappropriate technology. Just because we can do something doesn't mean it's the smart thing to do.
The only thing we've got left to fight with is our vote. Now they're trying to take that. These machines are going to be devastating. As I told them in the hearing the other day, there is not one computer that cannot be hacked. There's not a computer out there that cannot be programmed by the programmer to do what they want done with it. We have to have paper ballots. We have to have people sit and count those paper ballots. Not a paper trail, because that's what they gave them up in Hill County. They had a paper trail. But when it comes time to call for a recount, we're very sorry, but that little paper trail was too smudged to read. We have to take the word of the computer. I, for one, am not willing to take the word of a computer, and you shouldn't be either. This is probably the most important battle we're going to ever fight. For certain, let's get back on the federal elections with paper ballots, no paper trail. Let us mark our ballot, put them in the box, take them out and count them by hand, just like we've been doing. It's worked real good for a couple of 100 years, and that's the one thing that there's no way to change it to computer and get an honest reading out of it. So I strongly urge you to get involved with these people here, call for the paper ballot, and simply do not accept anything less.
I guess it's apparent why we have failed at achieving real reform like you have. And it's a real sad commentary. What you've seen is real live evidence that we have, the machines can't be trusted, and your court was right to ban them. But I wanted to give you some oversight because I'd like some feedback if possible, and I want to save some time if you guys are interested in asking questions or at least sharing what you know about what you've just seen as to what's wrong and what we need to, other arguments we could make, because we've tried everything and stood on our heads and we still aren't being listened to. Because our computer security experts are predominantly in academia, and their role is to prove that you can trust the machines and that the voting software can be secure. In fact, they're guaranteeing it pretty much. But the evidence, what the court said that I think it's absolutely necessary for us to do in America, and we need your help in making that happen, is that the principles of transparency and the public nature of elections must and should be protected and preserved at all costs, above everything else, above machines, above proprietary secret laws, above everything that we've been told by our government. Because the citizens are just, they know something's wrong, but we just don't have any experts on our side to help us make the case to the American people in a way that will resonate, that they can see that what they're being told is not the truth. And the Chaos Computer Club has its principles and its mission is to tell the truth about what you know to citizens like me who don't have that expertise. And right now, our government, to compound the problem we already have, they're working to centralize power even more into the hands of a few chosen by the executive branch. It's called the Election Assistance Commission. And their role is to totally oversee the testing, certification, and the implementation of these machines and how they are to function within each state. That cannot be a good thing when a few people control how the machines are tested and certified, and the citizens have nothing to do with it, and it's all in secret. Another thing is we have legislation that some of you may have heard about who are interested in election reform, and that is the Rush-Holt bill. It's evolved into this package of legislation that basically says post-election actions can be taken to see if the machines were right through audits, which are nothing more than spot checks. But it will give recounts, which are expensive, and usually you don't get all of the documentation, and it's never a random selection of the counties when they do the recount. And the party that wants to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to have the recount has to be persuaded to do so. So you see there's no incentive for that. So also our legislation is in direct opposition of what the courts here in Germany said, don't even go down that road because this chain of custody secrecy is maintained and you'll never get a full accounting of the votes anyway. So the most recent thing happening that shows centralized power in America is the two largest voting machine companies, ES&S, that's Election Software and Systems. It has said it wants to buy